the path of a musician is like super, super near and dear to me. I was in bands growing up with, such a passion for making music, and I still kind of do it. And so like obviously I was in the business side for a little bit, and it's such a crazy wild ride, like never ending high risk, like high reward situations. So tell me about your journey pursuing being a musician. Like you've been literally nothing but intriguing to me from the start. So I'm dying to like know all about you. So fill me in on the path that brings you to the point we see you now with Glimmers.
Okay, cool. So I've been singing since I was 4. It has always been the thing that I've loved to do the most. Like I would sing Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield to my parents in our living room growing up. And so I just always loved to sing. I begged my parents for a guitar and guitar lessons. Like every year of my life, I can really just kind of look at it through musical highlights, which is really cool. Um,
Very.
yeah, and so when I was really, really young, like even 5 or 6, I started musical theater and being in different shows. So I was in little recitals growing up as a kid, and then as a teenager, I worked for a nonprofit theater company here in Georgia. And so being in musical theater really gave me the confidence to be on stage and perform. I think it's how a lot of musicians get into performing to start, because you're playing a character. And so it's a bit easier to put yourself out there when you're not being yourself. And I've heard that from a lot of people, which is really interesting. But
I was
so,
actually backwards on that. I've done a couple stage things, but like
oh,
I wasn't good at being other people. It felt way more comfortable to be me on stage.
that's interesting. Yeah, and I think it's different for everybody. For me personally, it just felt better to play a role, and then you're kind of like you're in someone else's head, so you're not overthinking how you're feeling and like how to project what you're feeling. And so I was in theater for a really, really long time, directed my own concerts and things at this theater, played, I was in Into the Woods, I was the baker's wife. I was in a show, which was my favorite. I was in Spring Awakening, which is like
Oh
a,
yeah.
yeah, one of my favorite shows ever. So I was in that. And so I really thought I was going to move into more of a theater direction. But so, kind of at the same time, I started learning how to play guitar. I taught myself how to play piano by ear. And piano is my favorite instrument besides singing. So I really stuck on playing keys. And then I was in different rock band programs in addition to being in theater. So I played coffee shops, I played the food festival things, like me at 12 years old playing the Masquerade, which is a venue here in Atlanta. Super, super historic venue. Like Nirvana played there, Green Day played there, like just super cool place. Me at 12 years old with a bunch of metal dudes competing at a battle of the bands. Like that was just what I wanted to do. That was my life. My parents were always supportive of that, always like cheering me on. So kind of growing up, I did both. And then I made the choice, because theater and music, like they both take a lot of time. And you kind of have to really fully commit to one or the other. And so thinking about it and making that decision, I thought, you know what? I really want to pursue music. Like I would rather write my own songs and at this point sing in my own voice and express myself than be in another role or in another person's shoes on stage. And so that was when I started playing the Masquerade more seriously as a solo artist. The first show I opened up for Allison Weiss at the Masquerade. And I was like 15. It was when they posted that they wanted submissions for local openers, like on the Facebook page. Like it was so open at that time. And so I remember seeing that Allison Weiss was performing, and I love their music. And so I said, Mom, like, is it okay? Like, should I email them and just see if I could open for this show? And she said, why not? Like, if you don't try, you never know. So I had maybe 40 likes on my Facebook page. I didn't have any recordings. I just had live videos of me playing coffee shops with an acoustic guitar. And so I sent an email to the local booker at the time, and he asked me, he said, hey, can you play 30 minutes worth of original material, and can you sell pre-sale tickets? And I said yes and yes. And so got the pre-sale tickets, sold them to my friends, played that first show, and like that was that big moment for me where they really took a chance on me. And then a week later, they asked me if I could open for another band because they were in need of someone. And so that was the point where I thought I can actually do this not as just a hobby, but I can actually maybe try and make this a career, which was weird to think about at that time.
That's amazing. Like, so this being like a professional journey type of a podcast, if I had any sense of direction of what I was going to do with my life in even my early 20s, that would have been fantastic. Like it took me like until my late 20s to like really get myself sorted out, but to be so early on in your path and being like, oh, I can do this, and also have the support of your parents on top of it is incredible.
I am very fortunate on that front. Like, my mom is truly my number one fan, and she's like my best friend. She's the coolest. She's the mom that, like, if I go to an All Time Low show with a friend or by myself, she's like, I want to see All Time Low. Like, I'm jealous. She's so cool. And so I'm very lucky in that department. But she always told me, if you don't try, then you'll never know. Like, the worst thing that can happen is that you don't get the opportunity. And so that really stuck with me and really is with me to this day. So whenever I reach out to someone in the industry or try and get on a show, I always just go for it. And so I've been lucky that's been instilled in me, and I don't ever really feel afraid, because the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't happen.
Yeah, for sure. So then I guess fast forwarding a little bit, now you're on your way in your solo career, correct? That would be basically the beginning of your solo career.
Yeah.
Then you wind up in this crazy situation where you're recording and working with Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Then where does Glimmers come into play? How does that land?
Yeah, so what's crazy about it is we've only been a band, we've only been Glimmers for 4 months. So
Really?
Yes. So I was doing my solo thing. I was playing acoustically or with another friend of mine, but I really wanted to be in a band. And I really wanted to be the kind of front woman that's like a Hayley Williams or like a Tay Jardine, where you're really fully giving a performance. And I felt like I loved playing acoustic guitar, but I felt kind of weighed down. Like, it didn't give me the opportunity to thoroughly perform these songs like I wanted to.
Right.
And so then I began the process of trying to find bandmates who could be like a backing band for me. So still be under the name Maggie Schneider, but have a full sound rather than just playing acoustic. And so this was a very long and arduous process, because it's hard to connect with people musically and personally.
Oh, building a band is the worst, because maybe your original one is great, right? Because they're your friends, like you know them, and it just kind of comes together a little bit naturally. And then if that band falls apart and you don't have a real good connection with other musicians, pulling that band together becomes a nightmare. It really is. Just like the vetting process in and of itself could make you want to just bail.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it took me years to meet the people that are in my band now and also connect musically. And so I went through, many different bandmates. And like, it wouldn't have to be even like a big dramatic reason as to why they didn't like stick or stay around, but it never felt fully right. Like there wasn't that gut feeling in me that just relaxed and said, you know what, like this is a family. Like I feel like everyone around me is like having the same vision in mind that I do. And so I think it's about a year and a half ago, or I guess, no, we'll go back even a little bit further. 2 years ago, this is gonna blow your mind. 2 years ago when I started recording these songs that are out now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was gonna put them out solo. I wanted to make, a record. I wanted to do full band arrangements, but it was still gonna be just under my name. So my lead guitarist was the person I went to record these songs. He has a home studio that's about 5 minutes away from me, but we hadn't even performed together at that point. I met him, we were on a bill together a few years prior where I was just playing acoustic and his old band was opening as well. And so I went into the studio with him, and the more that we collaborated and became closer friends, we just had a great time in that environment, and he wrote a lot of the instrumental parts on the EP. And so what had happened was, not this past June, but June 2019, I had a gig opportunity to play New Orleans.
I love New Orleans.
I love New Orleans too. The food is the best.
There's a lot that's great about New Orleans, but the food is amazing.
Sure. Oh, yes. And so I had the opportunity, but I didn't have a solid backing band lineup at that point. Still kind of like going through members, like I needed a bass player. I didn't really know what to do, but I wanted to play the show. It was also a Paramore cover set.
Oh, right on. So here we go. Hayley Williams comes full circle.
Exactly. So the other two bands were like a Blink-182 set and a Green Day set. So it was like a themed night. And so I really wanted to do this, but I didn't know who to do it with. And so I asked my friend Ari if he would step in and play bass. And then I asked Alex, who was the guy I recorded with, if he could play lead guitar. And then I had our drummer Jeremy, who was the only backing band member who stayed throughout this entire process of trying to find people. He was still with me, and we definitely connected, and he wanted to stay around. And then I had Alex Norell, who played rhythm guitar. So the lineup of Glimmers, we played our first show just under my solo name over a year ago together. And so it's crazy. So we practiced for this Paramore show. The show goes so well. We learned like 15 Paramore songs.
That's a hell of a set list.
Yes, especially vocally. It was intense, but made it work. But that was our first show with the Glimmers lineup. And then a week later, Alex Downtain comes up to me and he says, "So can I be in your band?" And I said, I was about to ask you the same thing. And so he said, okay, sweet, let's do it. And so from that point forward, we're playing in this lineup, but still under my solo name. But we played some really cool shows last year. We got to guest DJ Emo Night in Atlanta.
Oh, nice.
We got to play a few tours. Like, it was so fun. And that was a moment when we all looked at each other and we thought, this is it. Like, we want to be playing music together, like, forever now. Like, this just feels perfect.